sites like Hilton and Sheraton, that there will be, growth will be financed, through internal profits and, um, financial partners. You know,
Yes.
it is all coming from you. You couldn't do what I envisioned.
At the stage of the game we're at right now, how do you personally, with what you know about us, feel about equity investment?
Well, I don't know as much about you perhaps as I should to say more definitively, but what I suspect is that you need to get down the trail on this plan
Right.
and present a new vision and have some progress in this MDC concept, and then I don't think there'll be trouble, because
No,
I absolutely believe it.
Well,
I don't want you to go to a venture company and give away
No, right,
75, 80% of the company in order to get some capital.
right.
What I see is like a 50% interest in this MDC, profits, no operating role whatsoever.
Mhm.
Class A, Class B stock, they're just a silent investor. You know, if it's a land developer, maybe they've acquired the land for this location, and they can sell off the land in which you share in that profit. Maybe that's a proper role, the land. But I don't see an investor having any operating role whatsoever in your operation. You operate it.
And that's what my advisors have been saying. It's premature by 3 to 4 years out.
It is. Well, you'd give it away now.
Right.
We've got a big thing here. You don't want to give it away. What I've written here is growth will be financed through internally generated profits and financial partners. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
I'm gonna use the bathroom. Just a second. Wanted to have a meeting with me, so he came up to Lake Arrowhead and I came down from Big Bear, 28 miles, and we spent the afternoon together. And he says, of all the things you taught me, Tom, and we did acquisitions, we did a whole bunch of things, this was the most important thing you ever taught me. You get the right person in the right job, down to first year supervision, all the problems melt away. And that's how we built the company. You said it would take 5 years, and it did. But I got my direct reports right, then they got theirs, and theirs, and theirs, and theirs, eventually got it down to the first level supervisor. All the problems melted away, You get work instead of done on time instead of excuses. Producers produce and losers explain, And I've had that concept with many companies now, and it's really helped them. And so I submit the possibility is that operationally we'll get the right person, we'll have the right person in the right job, down the first tier, and I guarantee you, you'll get results that are not excuses, explanations. This is why I couldn't do it.
Would you say that in, the, recruiting profile? Or do you wanna add on to the recruiting profile?
Well, yeah, it's sort of I can add it on to this. We'll only recruit the target profile, and we'll have the right person and the right job down the first tier.
Yeah.
That's a good way to do it.
Coming from the other side of the room now?
Yeah, the spirit's moving around the room.
Now, the first tier supervision. This is very powerful. Don't temporize on it,
Don't what?
Don't temporize, don't ignore it, One very large pump company, hundreds of millions in sales, said to the CEO, go to your office and go to your direct reports and mentally, and then theirs, and just go down one level below you, and tell me how many people do you really know are in the wrong job. And he came back within a couple of hours and said something between 10 to 15. I said, you know what that costs you? That invisible loss. I mean, you're living with it. You're not doing anything about it. You just admitted, there they are. So, people do it all, Computers didn't invent people. People invented computers, and you gotta have the right person in the right job, and it's a good discipline to look and say, now which of my staff? Now maybe I got a problem here. Okay, is it they don't know how to do it? Is it that they're not happy with this? And maybe they're going to be transferred out, put into some other post, and often that saves the person something that they can do now. They can't think like the job requires. See, they think they can train them into thinking like the job requires. No, can't do it. Can't do it. And they're utterly miserable. But if they don't see the alternative, what are they going to do? They're going to be silent. I got to have a job. I got a mortgage. So, okay. Technical companies are very bad about putting people in the wrong job. Because they aren't trained in human relationships. And they put them in over and over. I give them a smaller job, but it's the same kind of thing. They can't think that way. Even if it's smaller, they set them up to fail.
That's what you mentioned, Perot yesterday, are you talking about?
Ross Perot?
Yeah. I worked a little bit in Denver with, Perot Systems had probably 100 employees in this one building. And, they had this one young lady who was there just to try to really manage them. And all she knew was technical stuff. She didn't know have a bit of people skills and anything, and it was just so funny watching the interaction. It was just out of control, absolutely out of control.
Ross Perot is a very interesting man, There's an eagle in the lobby, and there's an eagle in his office, and that's the only eagles that yes. In other words, I'm the eagle. And I had my recruiting practice, I tried to recruit his number 2 guy, Mort Meyerson, who today is the CEO. This is 1972. And Mort thought about it for 2 or 3 weeks and finally said, I get along pretty well with Ross, and I think I'll stay. And I thought, what a wonderful decision. Ross has built an auditorium in Dallas named after him, the Meyerson Auditorium. he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, he made a darn good decision to stay, not let me recruit him, you know, to another computer services company. But Ross is a really interesting guy. You know, General Motors, we acquired his company, and Ross began holding press conferences. He was trying to become the CEO of General Motors. He was subverting. He was going to become the new CEO. He's holding press conferences and telling what a crappy company this is. So we had to do something about Ross Perot, you know. You know, it was like the Colonel when, you know, the Uline acquired Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the Colonel would, if he went into a store that was dirty, he would call the press in. Look at this store. This is a disgrace. Yeah, he's a living legend, the spokesman for the company. And he was right. You know, it is a disgrace. But you know, he made it a very public thing. Don't have any option but to clean the store up. You know. So then Uline got a lesson in the hiring of living legends.
Don't.
Yeah. I met the Colonel once. In fact, the portrait of me that's upstairs, his picture was in it. You know, the one in the white suit going right around the world, and the photographer who did him did me. I said, I like that one, so he took him out and put me in Colonel's frame. Some people say, now Tom, you should pre-print these. It would save all this time. But you know what? If I pre-print them, it becomes cooked. Develop some things that have a future, so we can focus it down, you know?
Right.
Like the managed distribution center. We have a CEO who's an entrepreneur. And Tommy will always have more ideas than you can execute. So, you know, that's him. So those ideas need an outlet. They may be very good ideas, but, you know, something else, it's something outside, you know? You know? Because the entrepreneur has unrest. You know, we just go on and so I have no doubt that there'll be other things that he will want to start that are outside of this envelope and should do them. And he's got a certain set of concepts that he lives by. I think I mentioned I know an entrepreneur in Orange County that started up about 40 companies. They're all successful. They're all different. He isn't trying to run any of them, right? He's just been the thinker that got him started. You know. Am I wrong on that?
No.
That's,
I wrote down 4 yesterday.
he may have a problem.
For a while.
JLG told me they couldn't recruit PhDs from MIT. I said, yes, you can. They said, we're in the backwater here, a little redneck town in Pennsylvania. They won't come here. We don't have the cultural advantages. I said, the cultural advantages are about 20 miles away, and in Chambersburg. And I said, you present a picture where we are, where we're heading, how we're going to get there. We're going to become the largest area work platform company in the world. Number one in quality, reliability. Yeah. You want to join that team? You want to hitch your wagon to that star? Like years ago, this young man wanted to be with IBM because they were going to be the greatest. We didn't invent the computer, that was Univac. Eckert and Malkley. Well, they get the PhDs today. Good ones, MIT, great engineering school. They come and they live over in Chambersburg and go over to a redneck town where the factory is. IBM, we could recruit them up into, upper New York State. But the people aren't going to get caught by a real vision. You don't want them.
That's right.
You don't want them. They can't see it. You don't want them. So, where have we been? We're a 10-year-old company, huh? Now, what did we learn in those 10 years?
I said part of it yesterday, and I will bill from this. I don't think this is going up on the board yet. People reward specialized knowledge. If you can present that you have the wherewithal, the ability to generate ideas and solutions, they'll reward you for that.
You might be moving over into where we are now,
Okay.
specialized knowledge.
Yeah.
But where have we been?
Kind of all over the board. I mean, really.
That's right.
Trying to go where we thought it would make money within some boundaries.
We're a 10-year-old company that in our developmental period, we've
One thing that we were talking about last night, this might answer the question, is within the boundaries, Tommy said, where have we been? We certainly do not regret the things that we have tried and actually performed, because it has established the boundaries for us that we didn't know till today.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yep, don't know what you don't know.
I ventured into the construction industry for 2 years. I was the dedicated provider of services to 284 lumber stores. You talk about a company whose values I don't line up with, and they don't line up with mine, and that was that company. But I learned a ton about the construction industry itself, and just chose that's not an industry we want to be a part of. It's a different operating entity. I think that's key, what you just wrote. That is absolutely key. It's a learning path.
Yeah, I think what he said is very important. Well, I'll change anything that doesn't read quite right to you. We're a 10-year-old company that has tried, without regret, a number of directions.
Yes.
What we've done.
Yeah.
What else can we say where we've been? I think you've had successes.
Right. That's what I was sitting here thinking.
And
There have been
failure.
some- Yeah, there have been some successes.
Hmm? But you've survived. We're a survivor. Where many went down the tubes during this period.
there was an article in Transport Topics that said in the last 3 years, more transportation companies have gone out of business than at any other time in its prior history, 50 years.
We've had successes and failures, but it's survived. But I think there's another thing now. You've actually enjoyed growth. You've grown from a start to what? $10 million, huh?
And almost all self-funded.
Where we are now. Wait a minute, that might be getting over to where we are now.
Okay.
Let me see.
Well, you could say where we have been a growth company. I mean, that is our history. And probably my hardest learning, you mentioned the word earlier about what are your learnings. My hardest, most difficult learning has been banks fear growth companies like the plague. And that's been a tough one.
Yeah, I think this is a really excellent point there. We've had a difficult time with financing because bankers do fear growth companies.
Yeah. Well, and I think you could even add to that, we have been historically underfunded.
So what I've written is, we've had a difficult time with financing because bankers fear growth companies. Historically, we have always been underfunded. Is that it?
Yep.
I have one for you, and I'm not with him that long. Growth has been accomplished without compromising core values.
Good.
That's a good one. Thank you, Tom. That's a really good point.
Well, I called him this morning, left a message.
Let's take a look at saying where we've been. We're a 10-year-old company that has tried, without regret, a number of directions. In other words, we've been experimental. We have had successes and failures, but have survived. We have a history of being a growth company. We've had a difficult time with financing because bankers fear growth companies. Historically, we have always been underfunded. But in conclusion, growth has been accomplished without compromising our core values. a pretty good statement about where we've been.
Yes.
Let me just make some observations on what this bankers here. Well, bankers make investment grade analyses. They don't do any strategic analysis. They really aren't even interested in that. They just look at the numbers, you know, and they don't want to become your partner at all. The venture capitalists seek growth companies, but then they seek to own your company. They want to, MetaPoint would take 75, 78% of it if they were to fund you. That kind, they're not untypical of venture capitalists. So you get left with very little. So it's a perplexing problem. You know, when you talk with the security analysts, and I was a speaker at their national convention a few years ago, they have no interest in strategic analysis. They too, like the bankers do, investment grade analyses. They could care less what I had to say about how I would appraise a company for a potential acquisition, how I do a strategic analysis. And it was obvious. They had this Paul Erdman speak on who writes the catastrophe books, the crash of '79, the crash of '84.
Oh, yeah.
They come or not, it doesn't matter, but people love to write
Yeah.
catastrophe books.
I remember when he went out 10 years and wrote one. It was a bunch of garbage.
And the security analyst loved his talk. I was on the platform and they thought his talk was great, a lot of clapping. My talk was dead silence. So I figured they don't have any interest in my kind of stuff. So I got a lesson about security analysts. You know, they don't really know how to appraise a company. They do not. See, I have my process, and I explained it to them, because I have to go through that to do an acquisition. You know, do they fit? You know, what is their position in the field? I've got a process. No interest. See, so it's all by the numbers, investment grade. So it doesn't surprise me that you would say that bankers fear growth. Yeah. But once you're there, they like to loan you.
Oh yeah. They only loan money to people who don't need money.
Oh. That's right. So that's excellent. Now where we are now. Well, we're at 10 million. Huh?
Yeah.
Is there some profit?
Not today.
At least to Dan.
Well, but is there? I know you had to buy out a partner,
Yeah.
and I know that's had an impact.
Right.
But when you take that into account, are you producing an operating profit of some type or not?
Not today, but the good news is we bottomed out around June, really affected by market forces. I mean, you talk about survival. Anyway, bottomed out in June and have since June been cutting the losses in half almost every month, to the point that we expect, the way things are trending, that either by December or January we'll be back in a positive cash flow situation. And it came about as a result of Dan's work in really getting to the nuts and bolts of what are our performance drivers, something you talk about in there. And it's rate per mile. We understand our rate per mile. I mean, we understand our performance drivers. That's where we are now, and are monitoring weekly. We have a weekly meeting just to go over the performance drivers. The analogy I've used with people, Tom, recently, including our banker. 6 months ago, the ship was headed straight at the Titanic, and we didn't know it. We had both engines wide open because we didn't know what we didn't know. Because of the work Dan has done, we now know that we're headed straight at the iceberg, have backed off the engines, still have to go through the ice fields, but at least have a course to get through it. And I mean, the way we're managing is through payables. And we've got some folks that hate our guts right now. But we're finding out who our strategic partners are. The people that say, I understand, I'll work with you, and those that say, I don't care what your problems are, give me my money now. So that's a second where we are now. We're finding our strategic partners.
Is this right? We're operating at $10 million annual sales, operating at a loss, but expect to be profitable early in 2004.
Yes.
You made me think of a thing that happened with my wife Jenny 3 years ago. General Motors was going through a tough time, so they were taking 6 months to pay me. You know, they're working on my credit. So my wife answered the phone once with a GM client, and she just said, Tom's not going to work for you if you don't pay him better than this. I said, well, Jenny, what's the problem? I said, she said, you're taking 6 months to pay him. I'm going to tell him not to work for you. Don't, Jenny, don't do that. Don't do that. I came home from the trip and I said, what did you say to my client? I said, my God, she shouldn't say that. She said, they're going to get a purchase order to put you on 15 days, period. You know. I said, thank you very much.
You turned over your receivables management to her.
To her, no more problems. From then on, it was 15 days they paid. I didn't to worry about it anymore. Okay, where we are now.
You know, I'll let you choose whether you want to use this or not. But I feel like we've learned more about the financial side of our business in the last 2 months than I have in the last 9 years, primarily because of Dan's work. I mean, Dan came in as a Fortune 100 CFO. He doesn't have to work for a company our size. He chooses to be
Yeah,
there.
and you can have very great people, and sometimes I have little companies, we get a retired CFO in billions, you know, with nothing, but they haven't experienced, you know, and they just love it because now they're retired, they got something useful to do. It's awful not to be needed. I think we're now actively managing for positive cash flow.
That's a true statement.
I think that's what you're doing. Hello.
Okay.
Hello, you gorgeous
It's hot in here.
femininity. I think it's hot,
Yes, it is.
but there's hot stuff going on here. Dogs look up to us, cats look down on us, and pigs consider us their equal. Cats, you know, were at one time worshipped, but they've never forgotten it. We are managing for positive cash flow. Is that true?
I like the word you used earlier, actively. We're actively, because that's important. to me.
Actively managing for positive cash flow. You must realize I've had many clients in that situation, and one that we helped get turned around. We're so happy. When we got it turned around, we had t-shirts made for everyone that said, "Happiness is positive cash flow."
I can relate to that.
Yeah. And where we are now is, we really have, we're operating in two businesses, right? The trucking and the warehousing. Huh?
You know, yesterday we used the word competing businesses, competing for resources. I don't know if that'd be bad description to include that.
We have two businesses. Good.
Think you want something? I am so childish.
I think that we've established.
I didn't think of that.
Where we
Please,
are.
Paul, we can get you this one, okay?
Yes, you did.
We have two businesses which are competing for resources, trucking and warehousing. We're just doing where we are now.
Would you say we're a company in transition, where we are now?
Yeah. And I think that is right. And it may be even stronger than that, but something Barbara said yesterday that was up on the other charts, and we're at the point where we use what we did, you know. That our dedicated business is the rogue. It's a rogue. It's a it's a consumer of cash. It's not profitable.
Dan did a model for us that showed for every $10,000 we increased revenue and dedicated, it cost us $1,000 more in cash. So you just dig the hole deeper, faster.
Yeah, it's, you know, I like to, with startups, look at the delta cost, delta revenue.
Incremental.
Yeah, and what you got is like a delta
Yeah.
1.1 to $1 revenue.
Right.
You know, and it might even get worse, but you've got that, and,
Yeah.
and without, with enough experience behind you to know that that ain't gonna get better.
Well, what we did, or what we're doing, is deploying the sales folks to go back to the customers and say, either you have to put some money into this deal up front, or we're out. We're out. Because you're using our assets and our resources, and we're saving you money. So we're saving you money twice, because you're using our cash, and you've saved money on we're giving you a good value for the price you're paying. So it's been powerful.
Are they responding to that well?
We've just started. Some have.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that some would. How is rogue spelled?
ROGUE.
R-O-G.
Yeah, RG.
R-O-G.
You'll
U-E, I know it doesn't a Q. R-O-G-U-E.
So we're staying at the Rogue River Inn. Actually, we're not. We decided to go 99 into town today.
Uh-huh.
There is a Rogue River Inn, and thank God we're not staying there. did not look very inviting. You know, it's kind of unfortunate how attractive that drive along the river could be, but it's pretty trashy.
Yeah.
It won't
You know,
stay.
it's some of the best salmon fishing there is anywhere. The Rogue River's famous for the salmon and the steelheads.
Yes.
People come here from all over the world to fish. We have a rogue business and our dedicated quote-unquote trucking business, which is a net consumer of cash.
End of point.
My Wyman Gordon client, I told them that they're really good customers, didn't want them not to make a profit, but every year they say take 6% more out. Well, people in the room laughed when I told them. Well, the president didn't laugh. And he went back to GE Engine and said, this is the services you're requesting that we do for you, and this is what you're paying us. This is we're losing money. He left with a check for $20 million that afternoon. He came back with a check for $20 million in the CEO's desk. See, they didn't really want to go out of business. They need a good supplier. So, if I don't know, you know, this is your situation, I'll operate this way. But there are people who, so I'm not saying, you know, that it's a rogue for all time. It might be, but you know, maybe you know, you operate it through what, TES or you know something, you know, and it would be a profitable line, and we. But see, there's been such pressure to bring costs down, and it really should be waste, that these things are happening, and a really good client that values you says, well, I just didn't know. And that was, $20 million is a rather dramatic example of, you know, everyone laughed. They thought I was stupid, or Tom wasn't so stupid. And I'd like to just finish off where we are now. What else can we say about where we are now?
We have, you know, we've talked a lot about human resources. We have a very good team to build from. I told you on the phone that I wouldn't wish or pray for you to have gone through what you've been through physically, but in the delay of 3 months, we've grown unbelievably as a group. The level of trust and dependency on each other is at an all-time high.
That's right.
Absolutely.
What brought that about?
Okay.
That I didn't go east?
No, what brought it about is our situation. Our situation seemed to, it brought our team together.
You've rallied.
And
Yes.
we had nothing in the past, although we were in alignment, seemingly, is that a word?
Seemingly.
Seemingly.
Seemingly is a good word.
In alignment, but we never had a significant event to cause us to come together. And this did, and you know, I'm proud of us.
Our financial crisis has brought us together as a team.
But I think it even goes further than that. I think if you look at, maybe that's because I'm aware we've been, if you look at the history of our company, we've always been so much like a family. Tommy has structured the company where you feel wanted, needed, respected. And you don't get that with a lot of companies. You don't get that with many companies. And I think that foundation has allowed us to be where we are now, is a company that pulls together and sacrifices together for the good of the company, knowing that in the long run, the company will take care of them.
You know, I know people that have been through this situation, and in the past, I think it's not unusual that the owner either sticks his head in the sand or bolts, just abandons the ship and leaves folks kind of wavering. I can relate to that. I never had that cross my mind as something I wanted to do. But you said something yesterday, Tom. I think it was vision is the wind that billows the sails toward the
Yeah.
shore. This crisis billowed the sails. And like I said, my analogy I used earlier, the shore was icebergs. We've since turned the rudder and we're not pointed straight at icebergs anymore.
So over here, I've added to where we've been, we've always been a family. And over here, where we are now, I've added, our financial crisis has made us one team, closer than ever. Our crisis is billowing ourselves. It hasn't broken us. I can remember in World War II, I might have said it to you.
You're recording.
That just turns it on and off. It's on, it's got a red dot on it now.
Record. Gotcha. Yes, ma'am.
Alright, so now when I wanna pause it, what do I wanna do?
Just hit pause. We had to hit the button here. It didn't
Okay.
activate, so you're okay now.
Alright, now watch it for a second, stay there, and let me see if I can do I pause it by hitting just the record pause?
Hit pause, yeah. Record pause.
Did that stop it?
Should, no. Hit stop.
Is it stop?
No. Hit the top button.
That's the on out, that's the start stop. Maybe that thing has to be turned out in order for it to receive.
Oh no, it's recording now.
Turn the little,
Finishing this up, where we're headed, upon validation of our MDC business concept, we will develop our Greenville working prototype. We will, with success at Greenville over the next several years, replicate Greenville in target U.S. metro areas. Finally, we will, within the next decade, have an in-market U.S. MDC network serving small businesses of the world. Because they can be anywhere.
Sure.
An in-market MDC U.S. network, right? Oh, that's great, but how are we gonna get there? Through intensely managing our strategic operating plan through a committed leadership team. The plan should be sacred. Trust the plan, manage to it, adapt it as necessary, but manage to it. Managing for stable, above par, operating profits. stable above par operating profits. Strategic partners for trucking, other services, and financing. And remembering who we are.
Mhm.
That's not getting away from. What do you think?
Sounds great. If Tommy asked, tell him we came up with all this on our own.
Hmm?
If Tommy asked, tell him we came up with all this on our own. You just wrote it.
That's, you come up with it. What's it worth to you? I'll
That's
just
very
go
good.
right along
Tom.
with it.
Very good.
Yes.
I think that's it. You know, we gotta remember who we are, you know, stay in the center of His will. I guarantee you it'll turn out okay.
Tom Drucker, when I was at Drucker, he said the problem with a lot of American industries is they make a plan and they change it so many times that they don't know what directions they're going.
Yeah, and every leader got his own idea what the plan should be. And about the fourth plan, you're back to the original. You know, so. But I think that this, all my experience tells me this will work. What do you think of that?
I think it's very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
I've got somewhere.
Now I have a concept of a risk pyramid. You know, you go through life and each one of us has the opportunity to meet certain people and have an influence, great influence on us as you and I, Tom, share Peter Drucker. You know, it's a great influence in our lives, and every one of us has some people that have fit that role. One of mine was Dr. George Lowe. You never heard of him, probably. But he was the head of engineering for Apollo. The very first task I had at IBM was tell us how man in space was going to go. And I went around to all the bases and laboratories and came back and wrote a report and said, it's going to be civilian space, not military. And we should bet on Apollo. You know, one of the things I'm proud of is we won every single ground-based and airborne computer on Apollo. I ran the marketing. And I fought a battle with their engineers who wanted to have an automated landing on the moon. And I said, no, sir. Those spindly little legs of the lunar lander tip over. Our astronauts are doomed. They're going to stay on the moon. There'll be no way to get them home. So it's going to be brought in by the astronauts. You know, just like every transport is. And later one of the IBM executives said to me, it might not have been a successful lunar program if you hadn't fought and won that battle, you know. and I got to know Dr. Lowe, who was head of Apollo for engineering. And he and I went on to do some things. He became chancellor of RPI in Upper New York State and sought my advice on whether he could do Route 128 or Silicon Valley kind of thing. And I said, no, but how about a manufacturing productivity center? And so he set up a manufacturing productivity center on the 1,100 acres he had set aside for it. Well, he had on Apollo a risk pyramid. He had 2,000 items on the, well, I don't know how many, but I'm confused there. He actually, on Polaris, we had 2,000 items. And he had many, and he had in every area of risk, he had an official devil's advocate like thermodynamics. There was someone who would shred it apart at a development engineering inspection, DEI, for thermodynamics and other for structures. The O-rings would have never happened on this, never happened if they'd stayed with it, but NASA became politicized. You've got a kind of cancer, and they're going to run flights to space like United Airlines and to get the budget from Congress. So they launched when they should never have launched. Two engineers who thought will stay up all night pleading with them not to launch. And the engineer deputy never reported it to his flight commander. You mean to say, before the Robbins Commission, you didn't? No, there was nothing in my job description said that. I had to report it. USOPU. But they were totally politicized at that point. Well, that's how we got to the moon safely, because we had a risk management process. And I started to say that on Polaris we had 2,000 items. I've been on a Polaris submarine. And we have 40 ways in which the hull can be opened. Now, if the hull is open in one of those 40 when we dive, you know what's going to happen. They've got to be closed. Now, this is a very simplified concept of risk. The risks that we not face are the risks that would keep us from realizing our vision. Those are the risks that are important to us. They're going to be a showstopper. I want to net it down to maybe 5 categories of risk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the highest on top.
I mean, something like one risk could be, unplanned lack of market demand when, even though we did our study and due diligence, find out that the trend has changed. Is that possible?
Invalid business concept. Invalid business concept, I tell you. Right?
Yes.
They're on the wrong one. That's why it's got to be validated. And so I'm just going to put categories here. And many people start down the road with an invalid concept. I've been a consultant on some of the largest write-offs in U.S. history. In fact, at the time, the largest. One at Kodak was $550 million. They developed a file management system, and for $550 million, they had less functionality than a little company in California which spent $5 million developing it. See, sometimes big companies just think throwing a lot of money at it. They had on-the-job training. They didn't throw a few good people. They threw just lots of money. And I blew the whistle and said, it's over. Sell it off. Stop it. It's just, $550 million. The concept was the product concept for file, information document management was invalid. It was just plain invalid. Like Trucker says, you gotta know the way up the mountain, you gotta know that you can get up there and down, yeah. But what are some of the other risks, everybody? I think, diffusion of focus, I mean, trying to run two businesses, I mean, you get confused, you know, trying to do too many things.
Capital?
Right now, we just get you've been doing the, you know, the plan, and you've been living this, and you know the risks you're running. The real risks.
What a lack of commitment from the team.
Is that a real risk?
I don't think so, but
That's what I mean. I thought we had
Oh,
said that we're pretty committed, so, while it could be in some companies, and often has been, I'm not certain that that is a real risk. On the other hand, the quality of the strategic partnerships you set up is a risk.
Killer. That's major. 2 times. Here's what I've learned about that. With a high moral and ethic code, you cannot be the follow partner. You must be the lead partner. Because in 2 times, I've agreed to be the subservient partner. They begin to do non-ethical business dealings. It reflected who we were, because we were considered their partner. That's critical. I apologize for being late. Meryl thought I knew where I was going, so she was talking. I was driving. Ended up about 5 miles past Walmart. And then we got there and it looked like Christmas Day.
Hopefully, yes. No, I think the quality of your strategic partnerships is very critical. It's easy to get into ones that aren't the best one, good but not the best. Then it's difficult to get out of them, you know, and if you're the follower, you gotta take your lead maybe from an unethical party, which is your point, you know. I couldn't work for Disney today. As a consultant, I would not work for Disney today. Or the movie industry. Too corrupt. I couldn't do it. So you gotta make sure who you're sleeping with, and you know that this is. When you think about risk, isn't there a technological risk that you won't have the?
technology killer.
Well, you mentioned earlier open architecture. You know, there are some companies out there that take pride in the fact that nobody can network with them, that they sort of control the whole thing. That's a business that won't be around forever, but there's some large ones out there.
Yep.
No, I'm just kidding.
You know, this closed architecture certainly isn't customer focused, is it?
No,
It's all about me, I'm gonna protect myself.
we've run into it already.
Sure, sure.
Because what they want to do, what they want to do is present vertical integration. They want to control the whole chain and don't want any outsiders coming in, and in the long run, it'll cost them business.
Marbles.
She's finally lost them.
Merle, what are you doing up there? Well, technology, certainly you're so technology dependent, you're making good choices, you know. I think cost structures. You have
Recall-
got,
Yes, I do. You know, you mentioned earlier the 6% net reduction.
hmm,
If we grow in size to the point that we get entertained by a major automotive carrier, you cannot come to the table unless you can show cost reductions. You're not even allowed to play on the playing field unless you can show them how you're going to reduce your costs 6, 8, 10% over the next 3 years.
what he says is absolutely true. My Torrington client years ago now was complaining a lot of served GM and Chrysler, Ford, Toyota was very unfair because none of their transplants would buy a thing from us. Unbeknownst to the executives I was meeting with, I had Toyota's vendor qualification listed in my briefcase, 14 points. I didn't tell them whose it was. I put the 14 points up that really address planning capability, control capability, execution capability. I said, now I want you to honestly rate us on this. Double minus is very much below par, you know. Single minus is below par. Null is competitive. Single plus is above par. Double plus is best in field. Well, when we did it, we were par to below par to, you know, way below par, you know. And I said, you know who this is? This is Toyota. That's why you don't have any business in Toyota. You don't deserve it. So, and that's what Tommy just says. True. You've got to, if you're gonna play with the big guys, you've got to constantly take out costs. And if you really wanna be excellent in your field, serving the small guys, you gotta constantly work on taking out this waste so that you can afford, through the operating profits, to put it into the best equipments that improve it that there is, you know. And that makes you very attractive to equity partners who, you know, won't have any votes, but they can provide financing to open that new center up in Nashville. So your cost structure.
Well, one we haven't mentioned up here, and it could be a problem in the future, given the state of our education with our kids. We could have a true employee issue. We're having trouble now just finding qualified people for the fields that we need them to be qualified for.
So qualified employees.
Qualified employees. And in the future, it could be even harder because we have very many kids that aren't going on to college,
Aren't even finishing high school.
aren't even finishing high school. And that could definitely impact our business if we're depending on qualified people. Bless you.
No, I agree with you. In the end, that's what it comes down to. And when you do grow, you find that that's a limiting factor on growth too, how fast you can grow. I mean, there isn't a more ethical, finer company than Souder. But boy, is that growing so rapidly. Are they having trouble getting people that will uphold their values, you know, and with another company where we had 400,000 of manufacturing facility. When we got the computers and data terminals in front of the machine tools, guess what? A lot of them couldn't read. They've been faking. We set up a program with Pennsylvania State, Penn State, put a cool school in the middle of the factory floor, and the professors come and teach them basic math, basic algebra, you know, how to read. They were faking. They didn't know.
We ran into that with our warehousemen. They were taking inventory, but they didn't know how to add and subtract or use a calculator.
Hmm.
And they're trying to help us with our inventory, and our numbers are
Okay.
off.
And they'll fake because they want a job, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, behind the computer, there's no longer any faking. So, qualified employees is a very good one. So, do you think that list is pretty complete? If we look at it, what would you say was the highest level of risk we have? We'll try to put them in order of priority. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So something's not gonna get on the list, okay. Sorry, but we'll take the top 5. What hit you as the most important risk we have, regardless of what order it appears there?
I think the concept, find that the concept's invalid. I think we're certainly not trying to start something from scratch because we're already in that business, but we are taking a full turn and going 100% in another direction based on what we think is the opportunity.
And I might have said this, Tommy, but I don't know that I have. But when something new, if there's even,
You hot,
Yeah.
Marty?
Just
Oh,
gonna
what?
crack the window.
She's
what,
warm.
open the door?
Open the door with the kids.
Or you want me to put the heat down?
Oh, no, I was just gonna have him crack the window a little bit.
Good.
Thank you.
Something new, like venture, like MDC, there's even 5 variables, all 0.9 probability. That the market is as large as we say. That the customer willingness, open to buy, is what we say. That our cost structures will be what we say. That the customers are who we think they are, It isn't hard to get to 5 variables in a venture, right? If they're all 0.9 probability, which is very high, that says, because it's 0.9 times 0.9 times 0.9 times 0.9 times 0.9 times 0.9 is 0.54. So probability statistics says that on this first chance, it's 50% probable that we're going to succeed. And by the second chance probability statistics, which I had to take when I was in MBA school, the odds go from 1/2 to 1/4, so they're now down to 25. And by the third chance, third time we try it, odds are now 12.5%. And by the 4th try, the odds are now down to 6.25%. So the moral of the story is, get it right the first time, you'll never have a better chance, And that's why I stress validating a concept. It's the best chance we'll ever have, Like Drucker says, before you climb the mountain, know how high it is and know the way down. And we probably won't have another chance if this isn't right. So, the business concept, right? That's the highest risk. Okay. Now, if we look at that, down the list, the next list, given that the business concept is taken care of, what's the next level of risk? The cost structures?
I wanted to say either capital or cost structure. It has something to do with money, one of the two.
Well, we have historically operated underfunded for the reasons you know better than I do. I suspect you've never I mean it lovingly, this is how I get away with murder, but you've really never managed for positive, cash flow.
That's correct.
And Dan is putting you to school.
Got that right.
Yeah. That's great.
That's a good way of saying it. Taking
Yeah.
us to the woodshed.
What do you manage for? Well, we managed for growth, we know that, we did achieve the growth, right? And look, it isn't all bad, cause some went under, many went under, you know. But it's probably, financing,
Yeah.
would be the next level of risk. Capital, whatever you want me to call it. Capital?
You know, I would rather use financing because capital implies buying trucks. Capital is usually associated with hard assets.
Okay.
And we're hoping to get, have less hard assets.
Right. That's right. Now we have employees, cost structures, technology, partnerships, lack of focus.
You said something yesterday, and I think you were quoting Peter, maybe not. Let me say what I think I remembered you saying, managing to cost. That's gonna have a dual edged here because it's gonna be part of your selling, your marketing, but it's also part of your profitability. Because what you've gotta be able to say is, look that customer in the eye, Barb's gotta be able to say this, and say, I can do this cheaper, faster, better than you can ever do it,
Really do it.
and really do it.
So you want to say managed cost, not necessarily cost structure, because cost structure leads me to believe we've got a problem with the way we're pricing things.
What she said was, it's really managing to cost, what you said yesterday, not cost structure, managing to cost.
Because cost structure in my mind says, we've got the wrong pricing in place. But we're managing the cost, that's maybe more applicable term.
You agree? I think it's very good.
Again, Tom, I apologize for missing, but on your chart, you've gone past Will and the action initiatives to risk pyramid. Was that intentional or
Oh, no, it's just a
kind of
matter of,
moving? Okay,
it's a matter of space.
okay, gotcha.
It really didn't matter. See, if you know your cost, then you choose to price what we call strategic pricing, at least you know you're doing it. And you're filling the plant and it's overhead fine, and we know we're doing it. But when you don't know your costs, you're doing it without knowing it, and that really, I think, is a very dangerous thing. So knowing our cost, this implies knowing our cost. And as large as we were when we were 500 million at Souter, now they're 3/4 of a million. They didn't know their cost. And they admitted it on the strategic plan. Says, you guys don't know your cost. So then on my example is we're designing a product, right, to a price position, a price point. But you end up taking out options, taking out features. Why is that, guys? Let me tell you why. You didn't design to a cost in the first place. So now you cover by taking out things that would have been desirable, if you left it in. Why don't you change? And they had real trouble with this. My friend, the vice president of marketing, said, well, we got to do a price. I said, I know it. But you have a price position in mind, but you have to have a cost in mind that you can do this for, that you can manufacture for. When you release a product out of product development into manufacturing, who has talked to manufacturing and say, can you manufacture for what we think you can? Have you ever? No. So, that's what it is. It's a whole new thing, to get in your idea, your head that this is what it's gotta be. I said, listen guys, I was an RCA, and General Sarnoff developed television, right? He had the idea of adding sight to sound, this is what he called it. And he got a team of engineers, marketing, financial people together. And as the war was getting over, World War II, he was a general in the Signal Corps. He would have once a month meeting at the Mayflower Hotel in Washington DC. And he'd go around the room, and my boss was one of the 6 people there, right? The price is to be $800 for a 10-inch monochrome TV. Our distributors have to make their normal profit. We have to make our normal profit. You have to be able to have a cost of this much. Can you say yes? You can manufacture it to enable that cost. Can you start marketing, sell it for that? Can you engineer it for that? So we can, he said, I will not say yes until you tell me you can. Well, the day came when they said we can. He said, okay, I say go then. That's managing to a cost. You're a wonderful company, Sauter, but you're not doing that. And that's why you don't, you cover for it by taking out features and options. But you don't start with that premise that a manufacturer to a cost. We're gonna, and your company would say we're gonna manage to these costs, right?
How can I manage to a cost in a distribution center unless I have technology in there? Because that cost of technology has got to be to manage that cost. So then I have to have all the components in to get the true cost before I can manage
That's
the
right.
cost. So
That's right.
technology has got to be up there somewhere in that cost before I can give a price to a
And
customer.
that's why technology's on this there.
Yeah.
Here. Have to know. That's why we make technology investments to bring the cost down. Right? Do better. So, if we said that, is technology the next one?
I'm not sure.
I don't know how you can manage to a cost before you know all your costs.
Well, what I'm saying is, if it's on the risk curve, it's in there, I'm
Right.
saying. It doesn't have to be in the cost itself, but it will be there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be there. I think the question from a risk standpoint is the technology available that's open architecture to validate this premise we've built on? Because throughout our whole 2 days, it's been integral to everything we've talked about. So, for me, trying to rationalize between, just for me, not to bias anyone else's, but technology and qualifying employees are the two that I see as the most 2 important remaining risks. Because strategic partnership is important, but it don't mean anything if you haven't done these other things well. So I could go with technology and qualified employees.
Maybe we can call it proven technology.
Yeah, that's important.
Well, we have to stable, reliable, we can,
Yeah.
let me tell you. There is a thing called the enterprise system. This German company, huh? Was it SAP?
Yes.
Promoted in our country. Georgia Pacific wrote off $140 million before they give up on SAP. I know because Sauter was their largest customer for particle board. They wrote off $140 million. Said, we can't make it work. So is there danger? Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is. Yeah. Are enterprise systems important? Yes. Have we successfully installed one that's Souter? Yes, we did in the church business. Took longer and we wanted it to, but we did it, in the church pew. Yeah. Now, are they important that we have enterprise? Absolutely. Is it a complex thing? Oh, yes. And, so be careful who we listen to. It may be very, very exciting and the sales pitch is just great, but they don't deliver. First of all, it was a German system, German manufacturing. Proven technology and then
Qualified employees.
qualified employees. Some call them associates now. My brother-in-law's mother was the first clerk of Mr. Penny, J.C. Penny, Casper, Wyoming. He said, "You're not an employee, you're an associate." To this day, everyone who works at Penny is an associate, not an employee. But I was in Kmart in Big Bear, and over the loudspeaker comes Associate 79. I said, they don't have it right yet. Associate 82. I'm still a number. Yeah, gee. And that's what's wrong with Kmart,
Oh, man.
They got trouble. Now, you've had some experience with this business concept. Some, right?
Yes.
So maybe we cannot say that it's not rateable, NR. Huh? We have some ideas about it. But I think we're saying we don't know that it's green.
I agree.
Huh?
That's correct.
It's really yellow, isn't it?
It's probably yellow with an up arrow.
Right. 45.
Right. 45. Yeah.
But we need to do a lot of homework. Financing. We have a historical track record of difficulty in financing. We're not about to give a store away to a venture capitalist. And the banks are fearful of making loans to growth companies. On the other hand, money flows to good ideas well presented.
Yep.
And so if we have a validated concept. Look, Fred Smith inherited $7 million. He spent $5 million on researching the concept that was to become FedEx. 5 of his $7 million he invested in the concept of FedEx. He used it as his master's thesis at Harvard. His professor wrote on his paper, "It's a very interesting and a concept, well written, but it's totally impractical." He used that prospectus that he developed to go raise $40 million in Wall Street, and that's how he started. The 5 was spent researching. He raised $40 million with it, and he got launched. That's the power of having a good prospectus. So what do you think on financing?
I think you're right. I mean, I think part of the problem with banks has been, my experience with bank is not having a compelling story. having an interesting story, an intriguing story, one they can go tell their friends, but not one they're going to invest in. And I think that, as I've thought of, I mean, because if just in saying to them, we're going to control our growth by managing our costs, watching our ability to fund what we're going to do. However, this specifically is what your investment's going to get you.
And let me tell you, your chief relationship officer with the bank says Dan, and he's reputation,
Yeah.
substance. I mean,
Yeah.
they look at who your financial
Yeah.
guy is.
Oh, that means a lot. You're right.
So
So I think
he's
it-
the chief relationship officer with the bank.
I think it's still yellow to 45. I mean, I
That's what
can't.
I would have said.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as it seems.
She trumped us both. That from yesterday.
I know.
I don't remember that.
Bob Buford had me on the platform at one of his conferences, and we went out to in the evening and visited a very wealthy party at their home, and had dinner at their home, and sitting next to me on the bus going over to this beautiful home in the Phoenix area was the CEO of a bank, and I think that when you interview, you have techniques for sorting out those who might be thieves. He said, yes. I said, what do you do? He says, I count the body jewelry. You know, gold necklace and lots of rings. That might be a little scary.
Yeah.
I said,
Not
"No,
very
that-
scientific, but
That's smart stuff that works for me.
yeah.
Okay. Managing to a cost. You've started a process?
Yeah.
Yeah,
With Dan?
I'm comfortable with that.
That's the only one I can look at and say that's a green.
Yeah,
Get his currently green?
green.
Well, we're getting there, we're not completely there.
No, we're not completely there. It might be green with a down arrow. No.
No.